Let's get some more reaction to this, and also someone who knows the league maybe better than anyone, because she is a former owner of the WNBA basketball team, Los Angeles Sparks. Paula Madison joins us now. Paula, thank you for joining us. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks, Don, for inviting me.
Listen, thank you for coming. You know Donald Sterling, right? So what's your
Well,
reaction to all of this?
well, I don't know him. I've met him, but not enough that he'd recognize me. I was a member of the WNBA Board of Governors, and as you know, the WNBA is a division of the NBA. And my reaction is one where the overwhelming majority of the players in the WNBA and the NBA are African American. They are people of color. The majority of the owners are not. Having said that, what I would say is that the NBA has made a concerted effort to get more black owners in the league, and there are a few than there had been, say, 10 years ago. But even so, when you have owners who are willing to make such statements, and ironically, he's making statements against African Americans and Latinos, and if the genealogy of the young lady who was, I guess, his girlfriend, if that's accurate, she's actually Mexican and African American. So you would think that means that Donald Sterling appreciates black men who can bounce a basketball and run up and down the court and score and make him money, and he appreciates the exoticism of a woman who's half black, half Latina, but he doesn't want them in his space insofar as his personal space is concerned, and he's embarrassed and irate about it. That the hypocrisy of this and the racism of this is something that I find reprehensible. And in this era that people sometimes talk about as being post-racial, I don't know what post-racial means. And more importantly, what I'd say is that we all should be proud of whatever race we are. There's no reason to make excuses, or there's no reason to denigrate anyone for being of another race.
Right.
This is what this world is comprised of, and I'm proud to be African American and Chinese and Jamaican and part everything else, because that's what this world is. We're a polyglot.
Right.
And to diminish people because of what? As I said, if these remarks turn out to be Donald Sterling's remarks, and if he is intolerant and racist towards African Americans and Latinos and people of color, then there's an easy way to address it. And a number of people have spoken out about how to address it.
And I want to get in here, and I want to make sure people know who you are. You're a former, you said, the board member of the Board of Governors, right? You're a former owner of the LA Sparks. And correct me if I'm wrong, you bought the LA Sparks during the time, it was right after the comments from Imus, correct? And you owned them until
Yes,
recently.
right.
You sold the team to Magic Johnson recently.
Right.
Right. So what then do you think should happen? What is a commissioner, what options do you think he has? Does he have really any option except for get rid of this guy, or to try to?
I mean, there's a range of options, but I think that, if it turns out that the NBA verifies that this is in fact Donald Sterling and those are his comments, then I don't think that the NBA has many more options but to take his ownership away from him and award the franchise to someone else. There's a very extensive and lengthy vetting process that one has to go through in order to be an owner in the NBA and therefore in the WNBA. It has to do with finances, it has to do with moral character, it has to do with standing in community. And at this point, you just heard a while ago about the numbers of instances of allegations of racism, some of which have been proven against Donald Sterling here in the Los Angeles community. If it turns out that these are a legacy, these are indicative of a legacy of his behavior, then I don't think that the NBA has much more of an option than to look for another owner. But the sanctions can range from a fine, a financial fine, or suspension. There are a variety of things, but I think that the really painful thing is for the Clippers. My husband and I were season ticket holders of the Clippers up until a couple of months ago for no other reason other than our lives just got really full and we couldn't keep going to all the games. But we were huge supporters of the Clippers. I feel really badly for all the players and the team structure, because from what I know of the Clippers and from what I've observed of them, that's not the character. That's not what the Clippers stand for. And it's unfortunate that Donald Sterling, in his capacity as I guess the #1 Clipper, would make such statements denigrating all of these people who he makes a lot of money from.
Paula Madison, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on. And just as a note here, the Clippers lost by 21, 2-2. It's an even series now. But again, I appreciate you coming on. You have a knowledge of this that many people don't. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Don. My pleasure.